President Biden will host his first State of the Union address tonight. Joining us with their predictions on what might be said, former White House official for President George W. Bush, Ashley Davis. Also with us, the founder of the Walkaway campaign, Brandon Straka. Panelist, welcome. Thanks for coming on today. It's a big night for President Biden, set to deliver his first State of the Union, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll carry it live right here on Newsmax. Ashley, your predictions of what we might hear from the commander-in-chief, especially at a very contentious time in regards to international relations, of course.
Well, I definitely think he's going to have to hit on, obviously, what's happening in Ukraine, but he also has to discuss what is happening with the economy. I think that most people in this country are not as concerned about what's happening in the Ukraine, but what's happening in their pocketbooks. And I think that he has to explain why the gas prices are so high, why hamburgers are so high, why bread is so high. And I think that's what, if the American people tune in, what they're going to want to hear.
Brandon, a majority of Americans are very unhappy with President Biden's handling of issues. An ABC News Washington Post poll showing 47% of Americans disapprove of his handling of the Russia-Ukraine situation. 58% disapprove of his handling of the economy. 50% disapprove of his handling of COVID. From crime in big cities, rising gas prices, rising food prices, foreign policy failures. Brandon, what does the president need to say tonight to plug the leak, to stop taking on water?
Well, looking at those numbers, I just want to ask the question, the grown-ups are back in charge. Are we having fun yet? Are we having a good time? This is what liberals wanted. They wanted an establishment politician back in office. They wanted the status quo back in D.C. We've got that, and what we're finding now is that everything is a disaster. As you pointed out, the economy's in the toilet. Biden presented himself as a foreign policy expert, which I think we've now seen with Afghanistan, with the Ukraine. His foreign policy decisions have been a complete and epic failure. And so tonight, I think that we're going to see a lot of backsliding, actually. I think that we're going to see a lot of sort of reformation of what the message is. Before, the message used to be build back better, and all of the ways in which we were going to move forward as a country, and all of the ways in which America was going to be better off than it was before under President Trump. The polls are now showing people were much happier under President Trump, and I think a lot of voters are actually experiencing buyer's remorse with Joe Biden. So tonight, I think the messaging is actually going to be more of, well, we weren't really able to meet the goals I promised everyone, but let's shoot for maybe some smaller goals that maybe are more attainable. I think it's just going to be a lot of doublespeak.
Yeah, again, this comes at a time where he has come forward with a Supreme Court nominee. Also, mask mandates are coming off in a lot of states. We're going to dive into that in a little bit. But Jen Psaki was asked yesterday, Ashley, about maybe how long even the speech would be. She said it's not going to go on for 2 to 3 hours. No one wants a speech that long. Of course, it's going to start at 9 p.m. tonight, so it could be a late night for the president.
Absolutely. And I think there's going to be a lot of people watching to see how he handles himself. I mean, there's obviously the rumors that he is not 100% there, I should say, in regards to, and how he talks tonight will show. I think a lot of American people are going to watch and see how he comes off. I mean, him standing there for an hour speaking is going to be a really tough thing for him to do.
There is a New York Times story, in fact, the New York Times coming under fire for a news piece. And read this headline with me, everyone. Test this out. It says 10 consequential days, how Biden navigated war, COVID, and the Supreme Court. The dizzying events of the past week have pushed to the sidelines the congressional squabbling over President Biden's domestic agenda and are already redefining the arc of his presidency. Brandon, this was not, I should say, in the opinion section. This was the news section of the New York Times.
Right. Well, I think, as I said before, I think this is becoming a common opinion across the left. Biden's approval rating is incredibly low in this country. And again, I think people are experiencing buyer's remorse. But again, the policies that he's put forward, he presented himself as a foreign policy expert to everybody in the country, and it's been an absolute disaster. And I think that the ways in which he was virtue signaling to his audience up until this point, things like nominating the first black woman to the Supreme Court, these are things that are not going to resonate with the American voters. As we pointed out today, they're wondering how they're going to be able to pay for groceries, how they're going to be able to put gas in their car. I think the truth about this presidency is being revealed, and it's revealing a lot about the media, too. That's been deceptive, I think, to people on the left. And now they're experiencing a lot of remorse for voting for Biden.
All right, we'll wait and see what exactly is said.